You might believe that some people are naturally persuasive, that closing deals and changing minds comes down to charisma or even worse, just luck. But here's what's actually happening. Every time you failed to persuade someone, whether it's a potential client, an investor, or even your own team, or if you're trying to influence up the ladder, your own management, you've probably skipped one of the seven essential steps that the world's most influential people use without even thinking about it. I mean, think about your last tough negotiation. You had the better solution, you had the right answer, you had the smarter strategy, but they just wouldn't see it. And that's because you started by trying to prove you're right instead of showing them that you understand why they think they're right. In the next few minutes, we're going to show you a proven 7-step formula that will absolutely transform how you influence people's decisions. And this is the exact same formula that's helped my clients, which include one of the top digital marketing agencies in the country, help them close $1 million deals, secure investor funding, and build unstoppable teams. And the best part is, you'll start seeing results the very next time you need someone to see things your way. So let's talk about it because, hi, I'm Jonathan Pritchard. I specialize in enterprise level sales, and I've been the sales trainer for several years at one of the country's top digital marketing agencies that lands millions of dollars in new business. And they use this exact system that's built on the formula that we're about to go over. And for more context, this guides the entire sales process for B2B sales, enterprise level sales, and everything down to mom and pop shops. And eventually, over the course of more videos here on the channel, we'll talk about how this 7-step framework happens at the individual conversation level and across all the conversations you have to close a deal over the course of weeks and even months. So let's get into it. The first step that when you're trying to influence somebody or your prospect, your client, you have to start with here's what you think is the problem. Now, you're not going to tell them directly, you think the problem is this. You're going to need to put it in their words of what they've explained to you the problem is. And you have to be able to listen to that and hear the challenges that they're telling you, the frustrations, what they've tried, why they think it doesn't work, all that kind of stuff. So you need to be able to say, you're dealing with this problem, and that problem, right? And they need to say, we couldn't have said that better ourselves. So your first superpower is being able to listen to what they're saying and what they're not saying, and to kind of listen between the lines on all that stuff so that you could explain it in their words better than they could. But here's the situation is that they aren't telling you what the problem is. They're telling you the symptoms of what is causing all the problems that they're telling you about. So in a business context, if they're saying the phone isn't ringing, we aren't getting enough clients, that's a symptom, but maybe the problem is something else. The problem isn't that the phone's not ringing. It's that the phone isn't ringing because of a problem in their lead generation strategy or approach or system. Okay. But you need to be able to put it in their terms. But in your head, you know that they're describing symptoms, not the real problem. So that's why it's here's what you think the problem is, when really the problem is something else. And we'll get to that. So the second step is that you have to also be able to model their explanatory system for why they think that's the problem. The phone's not ringing, and that's why it's a problem, is it's not leading to more business, right? So you've got to not only understand what they know their symptoms and problem to be, you also have to understand their thinking around why they think that's the problem that they're dealing with. So tell me, why is it an issue that the phone's not ringing? Let me just ask you a silly question. Why is it a problem that folks aren't opening your email? Right. So you have to be able to probe and ask those invasive questions to fully get a picture of what their mental model of what they're dealing with is, because they have experiences that have led them to believe this or that about whatever you're an expert in. And it's probably really far off base. It has no bearing in reality at all. But you have to understand not only what their beliefs are, but why they believe that. And that two-part system of understanding their perspective and why they have the perspective is everything you need before you could ever even start to persuade them. Because if you don't understand what has led them to their perspective now, there's no way that you could put it in terms that they're going to understand. So you've really got to understand their picture of reality, their situation, their challenges, their business, their everything. And once you understand the full picture, now you can meet them where they are and then slowly through the conversation move them to a better understanding of reality. And that's what step 3 is, which is now that you've explained to them their own thinking and why they think it, and then they go, holy cow, this guy totally gets it. I've never had anybody explain it that clearly. And he did it better than it took me 20 minutes to share all of that. And he summed it up in 2 sentences. Holy crap, this guy's amazing. I'm going to listen to what he says. So now you go, now that I understand what you're dealing with, I've got a really good picture of what the situation is. And if I had to wager, I would probably say that the real problem you're dealing with is your website. And you just nail down what the real issue is. Their website's hot garbage. Nobody's ever going to trust it enough to give you their business, their money, their trust, that kind of thing, right? So the phone isn't ringing because the website's so busted that they're not going to trust anybody that would have a website like that, or whatever the real root cause of the symptoms. You have to nail it down here. So this is a pretty quick step where you go, here's the real problem. And then they're either out loud or in their head, they're going to say, well, I don't see why that's a problem, because they probably have a belief that websites aren't important. Good work speaks for itself. They're going to see that we're just good people and we don't need a fancy website, or any of the bazillion reasons why somebody believes that they don't have to do business right. That's really it, right? So you've nailed down the problem, and now step 4 is where you're going to go through point by point of all their beliefs and wrong assumptions about why that's not really the problem. So step 4 is, here's why it's the real problem. You know, this thing that you're dealing with, that leads right back here. You know, this thing you're dealing with, it goes right back here. You know, this thing you're dealing with, it goes right back here. So you're showing them a better explanatory model that encompasses not only their symptoms, but also explains the real problem and how it leads to all of these symptoms, to help them understand that all of this is connected and they have no clue that that's how it works. Because really, if they've had their problem longer than 6 months, they don't know what the problem is. They would have solved it by now. So they have no clue what the real problem is. So you're going to need to educate them not only on what that is, it's your website. You have to explain why it's the real problem. 90% of business is researched online. Folks are looking at your website. They're looking at your reviews. They're looking at your social media. They're doing all this homework before they ever even call you. And if when they do their homework, they don't like what they see, they're never going to call you in the first place. That's why your website, your everything has to be buttoned up better than it is. And, you roll up on the job site, your truck looks fantastic, it's detailed, you've got a perfect wrap on it, you don't let it just get rusted out. Well, that kind of curb appeal and first impression starts at your website, and you haven't given it the same care, love, and attention that you've paid to your truck, right? And they go, I've never thought of it that way. Okay. So you help them understand why that is the real problem. And that's where you're going to spend a lot of your time, especially on the first call, helping them understand the real situation that they're in. Okay. So only then, once they're on board that, yeah, okay, I see that now, then and only then can you move to step 5, which is, well, here's what's to do about it. Here's the real solution. Here's the fix to the root problem that you're dealing with. And again, that's a very kind of short one because you're going to spend most of your time on step 6, which is, and here's why that's the real solution to the problem. And this is going to be something that they're completely unfamiliar with because, again, if they knew what the real problem was, they would have found the real solution by now. So you're probably talking about something that they have zero experience with. And this requires a lot of patience, a lot of understanding, and a lot of taking it slower than you ever thought you would have to do, which is why oftentimes, at least in the first call, you're going to touch on this barely, where you go, the number of times that I've seen this, which is more than 1,300, 99% of the time, the real solution is this. I want to do my homework to really dig in and make sure that that's going to be the thing that's going to help you out. So we'll go over that more in our next conversation, but that is shooting from the hip, probably what's going to fix this up. And then you're going to have to answer all the questions about, well, why is it this? Why is that the solution? Well, how does that fit this problem? And you're going to spend most of your persuading time here at step 6, because once they've bought in that, okay, I can see that that is the real solution, I can totally understand that that's what we should be doing about it, they're in complete no man's land. They've never been here before. They have no clue what's next. So that is step 7. You have to show them step by step the exact next thing to do. Now, at the end of a call, oftentimes it's next step is to look for my email. If you don't see it in the next 2 hours, it's absolutely in your spam folder. Here's what's to do next. Wait for my call. I'm going to do some homework. I'm going to spend a couple of days doing my homework to find out what the real solution is, and I will call you back. The next step. Wait for the labs to come back. Whatever that is, they're now in no man's land of, well, everything I knew about life and business is upended. I didn't even know what I didn't know. So this is where you really have to take care of them and orient them to the right direction of, here's the right thing to do now that you understand a lot more about how much you didn't understand about what you're up against. So that is also what happens here on YouTube. So for next steps is to watch this video or go to persuasiveprofessional.com and sign up for the emails to get more awesome stuff like this delivered straight to your inbox. And I will see you over there. That's it for me. See you next time.